What is White Room by Cream about? Before we begin, I got banned again. So, hi, buddy. Will you please follow me back? Okay, let's talk about lyrics. So, lyrically, this song is about depression. It's a poem sort of just describing sitting alone in a white room. The writer had been going through some sort of a breakup. And if you look into the lyrics, it's this really cool sort of metaphorical description about living in London alone in this white empty apartment. Black Roof Country is a reference to the roofs being covered in soot. And the white room is just used as this metaphor, but over time, that metaphor has been used in different ways. While at the time, the poet did not intend to be talking about being institutionalized, there is something called white torture. No, not this white torture. Ha! You can Google white torture. It's really interesting. It's about how to how to empty out a person and kind of make them go a little batty by surrounding them in a white room where everything is white and void of any color. And what's interesting about that, especially as someone who has put themselves in empty white rooms before, is this sort of self-imposed white torture. And so lyrically, it can be about this depression that is both self-imposed and imposed situationally. But the thing about songs is once you write a song, it's no longer none of your business what it's about. And so this song in particular has had this journey throughout the years being used in different kinds of media, it was used in the Joker, and being covered and having different meanings put towards it. So that's what it's about lyrically. Let's talk about what it's about musically, specifically using emotional music theory. Okay, so that main riff. So it is this riff, starts with the root note and then goes down 2 semitones and then walks down 1 semitone. This riff was used a lot in the 60s and 70s. It's sort of this menacing riff. And it kind of like went away for a while. And there's actually one song from the 90s that famously used this riff by Green Day. I feel like they're gonna bleed. So musically, this thing is going in between 2 modes or 2 scales. It's starting in Dorian mode, which is rooted in longing. And then these last 2 notes, it switches to harmonic minor, which is rooted in struggle. So we have longing, love, transition, and then hope and empowerment. That's what that main riff is doing. Longing, love still with some longing in there, transition, and then hope, empowerment. So it's this sort of emotional journey that ends with empowerment. And then for the chorus, it goes up to being rooted in power. So that riff, starting with a root note and then going kind of 2 frets or 2 semitones down, then 1 fret, 1 fret, 1 fret. It symbolizes this sort of like psychological descent, right? And then there's another one that's pretty close, but instead of skipping down, we go down 1 semitone. That symbolizes even more of a psychological descent. The point being is that is this sort of like cleaner, if you will, version of like the circusy mad clown sound. Okay, and lastly, you mentioned the guitar solo, so let's talk about that. So in this song, Eric Clapton is doing this awesome solo using a wah pedal. The reason that he was using the wah pedal is he had just seen for the first time Jimi Hendrix using it. And while at the time the wah pedal was this sort of new sound and this new technology, that sound and the technique of making that wah wah sound is nothing new at all. You can trace its roots back to indigenous African music. Now, when we're looking at ancient indigenous music, the timetables are weird because we have to rely solely on two things, neither of which are super reliable. One is storytelling. In my opinion, it's more reliable than the other thing. And the other is archaeology. So if we put the two things together, we can we don't know like when, like what year exactly things started popping off, but we can see that the sound of the wah developed with the sound of string instruments that would later become harps and lyres and then like lutes and guitars and stuff. And what would happen is that an African hunter would take their bow and hit it with their arrow and make this reverberant sound. And then eventually what they would do is stick the bow either on their chin or like in their mouth and hit it and use their skull and their mouth to get this wah wah sound. And then eventually they started using gourds. And then with the invent of farming and all these guts laying around, they started using different strings and developing different instruments, and they kind of got away from that wah wah sound as it traveled through other areas of the globe. But in Africa especially, that kept on being developed through different types of drums and doing things like putting water in the gourd and either hitting it or putting a string over it. So that sound, that wah wah sound, was very, very much in Africa for a very, very long time. So that's White Room. Not bad for one of the most overrated bands of all time and basically a glorified bar band, eh? Okay, so if I didn't just piss you off, go ahead and follow me. I teach this stuff and things. JoeyHelpers.com. I hope you have a badass day and I love you.